Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about functions, and functions are important in every programming language, and they're sort of like little programs that run inside your program. Now, a function only runs when it gets called. So up until now, when a page loads, our JavaScript has just been executed, right? But that's not the case with functions. They only run when you tell them to run. So that's useful for a lot of different reasons. So it's pretty easy to create a function. You just start out by typing function and then name it. So let's create a function that says hello and then somebody's name, right? So let's just call this function hello. So then you put these two little parentheses, and we'll see what these are for in just a minute. But for now, we'll just leave them like that. And now you put in curly brackets. So this sort of looks like an if statement, right? Instead of function hello, if we typed in if, it would be an if statement, right? Or a while loop or whatever. You know, we see this sort of format throughout our programming. So function, name it, and now we have this block of code right here between these curly brackets. And whatever you want to do in your function, you just type it in between these curly brackets. So we might say return hello John, something like that. So if we save this and come back here and run it, nothing happens, right? This functions, it's just this thing right here, right? So we have to actually invoke this thing in order for it to work. And to do that, we just type in the name of it and then put the little parentheses there. So if we save this and run it, actually nothing's gonna happen here either, because it actually ran, but it's just returned hello John. We haven't done anything with it. So if we wanted to print that onto the screen, we would have to go document.write and then wrap this whole thing just like that. Okay, so now if we run this, boom, hello John. So that's kind of cool. Similarly, if we wanted to just go hello like that, we could have, I suppose, went document.write, something like this maybe. Let's see if that works. Same thing. But generally speaking, it's not a great idea to write to the screen from a function. You can do it, obviously, but the convention is to sort of use this return. We're calling a function and it's returning something, right? That's sort of the idea behind that. And then we would just wrap this like normal. So before we move on, I want to talk about these parentheses here. This is important. This is where you can pass arguments, or semicolon. I'm always forgetting that. You can pass arguments into your function. So generally you'll put like a variable name. We'll just name this name. Now in here, if we went like this and then added a plus sign and then typed in name, it's gonna put whatever we've passed in as this variable in here. And it's gonna concatenate it together with our plus sign, because we can't add strings. It'll just smush it together like we've seen before. So here, if we wanna pass in something, we can pass in Tim, right? And again, we need to document.write this out onto the screen. Okay, that looks good, right? So whatever you pass in here gets assigned into this variable, and this variable can be used inside of this function however you want. So if we save this and run it, boom, hello Tim. Very, very cool. So here we've passed one variable. We can pass first name, comma, last name. And then if we change this to first name plus, and we put a space, plus last name. Now, if we run this, we're gonna get an error. It says undefined, because here we only passed one variable, Tim. So we need to pass two variables. So I'm going to change this to John, and we put a comma, elder. So here we're passing two arguments, John and elder, and they become these two variables, first name and last name, and the order stays the same. So this is the first one, so it becomes this first variable. This is the second one we list, so it becomes the second variable. If you had three, it would be the third one, whatever. You can pass as many arguments, as many parameters into your function as you want. So now if we save this, come back here and hit reload, hello John Elder. So those are functions, very cool, very useful. You'll use them for all kinds of stuff. And what's kind of cool about this is we could take this, first of all, let's just copy this function, and we could put this up here in our head. Remember, we talked about that way back at the beginning. If we went script like so, and then down here, wherever we wanted this to actually run, we could just call our function like that. Now if we save this and run it, we get the same thing. So that's sort of useful. That allows you to keep all your JavaScript sort of at the top of the page. Now here's something interesting as well. We can remove that, and let's say we put it down here at the bottom. If we save this and run it, we get nothing. Why is that? Well, this is something called program flow, right? So we start at the top of the screen and each line gets executed, one line at a time. So here, we're moving down. Now we're calling this function hello. Well, up until here, we've only executed the first 17 lines. This function is down here. So the program, the web browser, doesn't know what this function is yet because it hasn't gotten that far down the page, right? So that's why you often want to put all of your scripts at the top of the page in your head section. Or like we did earlier, you could just put it right in the middle of the page. So those are functions, very interesting, very sort of useful. Use them a lot. You might put your function, remember back at the beginning of the course, we created this myscript.javascript file. We could do the same thing. We could put this in here, take out the script tags and save this. And then here at the head, we would have to go script src equals my script.js, like we did back at the beginning of the course. And if we did this, boom, that works as well. So functions are useful to sort of break your code apart, keep the JavaScript on a different file or up at the top of your screen in the head section, makes things easier, cleaner, stuff like that. So those are functions. And we've pretty much now covered all the basic JavaScript programming stuff that you need. And this is just the stuff that applies to almost any programming language: variables, arrays, objects, functions, things like that. So from now on out, we're going to start looking at actually doing JavaScript-y type things on a web page. So that'll be starting in the next video.